Hello everyone, welcome to our fourth session on vocabulary practice. In the previous session, you considered explicit and implicit approaches towards vocabulary teaching and learning. You also noticed that explicit vocabulary teaching is particularly useful in the acquisition of high-frequency words. As you've seen, implicit approach towards the learning of low-frequency words can be applied on an incidental basis. However, there isn't usually enough time to exploit all opportunities in class time. You also analyze different ways of sequencing the presentation stage, as well as considering learner-centeredness in teacher-fronted presentations. In this session, however, we will mainly focus on explicit vocabulary practice, considering various principles that are known to affect vocabulary learning, and three popular approaches towards vocabulary teaching. Throughout the session, we will try to refer to these principles and the way they affect our preferences and choices of vocabulary practice methods and tasks. Before we start, we want to remind you one important underlying principle. As has already been covered in session 1 and 2, vocabulary knowledge cannot ever be fully mastered. Expanding and deepening vocabulary is a lifelong process, and learning vocabulary means being able to use it effectively, which requires far more than knowing its meaning and form. Let's continue with what's happened and what will happen in the first part of this session. Here, you started with a warmer activity on Quizlet and revised a few examples of the techniques that were also covered in session 2. You were asked to notice which practice activities you preferred and if they were similar to your choices of vocabulary presentation activities. You were asked to make a mental note of your answer to the question below. Based on your teaching or learning experience, explain what preference you have for practice tasks and why. Now you will also hear learner voices on the preferences from a group of pre-intermediate students. Later on, you will hear Deniz Kurdoğlu Eken's interview on vocabulary practice. In her interview, she talks about 4 C principles of vocabulary learning and practice: context, concept, collocations, and choice. She also emphasizes the importance of using all opportunities to exploit these concepts for teaching and practicing vocabulary. Please make notes of other key points for your information and reflection. Later on, you will add your contributions on a flip grid below. You can immediately go to the link from your session page, and this will be task 2 for you. Having done the part on different perspectives on effective vocabulary practice and your task, you will continue with the input session. Here, you can look at principles and techniques. You know that in order to open a booklet, you need to click here. You will focus on the principles first, and then in chapter 2, you will analyze and evaluate different activities. So this is task 4. Here, different activities focus on different principles as discussed before. So cognitive and affective depth chart is one of them. The other one is another lesson which focuses on the grammar of vocabulary. You will evaluate that one. And in the next part, we will focus on the exploitation of online resources. And there is a forum reflection again. So the last part of this is focusing on word lists and what to do with them. And here, analysis of different tasks. Here is an example pronunciation practice task as well. And then you can continue on your own. We'll come back to the reflections of principles in the second video. Thank you.